What's up, guys? This is my Duck River tournament recap and how I did and what patterns that I ran the entire day and the final results. So basically, after a long night of snow slash sleet slash freezing rain, we had about 6 inches of snowfall overnight from the March 11th to March 12th. Sadly, I left my cameras outside, so the camera and SD card were kind of messed up the day of the tournament, so I didn't get any footage. I'll try to explain the best here in these clips of what happened all day and how I ran my pattern. So basically, I won it. We'll get straight to the point. I won it by a large margin with as you'll see in one of these clips or already seen, I caught a 22-inch fish that was near about 7 pounds, a little bit over. Didn't have a scale, sadly, but that was estimated around 7 or a little bit bigger. We're going to say that's my PB is current now. So I caught my PB on tournament day when it ended up winning big fish along with first place, as you saw, with 56 inches. Basically, the pattern that I ran all day was the same pattern that I had decided to in practice and the same thing that you saw me run first, and I also had a backup plan. These fish are either going to do two things. They're going to do, as you can see in some of these clips, they're going to be in the ditches, or they're going to be right at the end of the coves, or they're going to be all the way up in the back of the cove. With a large amount of rain throughout the week and the weeks before, I knew that the lake had flooded real quick and that these fish were either in two spots previous days and practice days and weeks before. They were either in the middle of the ditch in the cove or the back of the ditch, or the side on the points. On the side of the points, they directly weren't on the points, and the fish that were directly on these points that I usually fish were far off and suspended, and I don't like to fish for suspended fish, especially at places like highland reservoirs like Duck River. So I ended up, as you see, running the same pattern. I would throw my chatterbait up into this cove and the ditch of the cove, running where the creek would, and I would really slow back through this creek channel and hopefully over top of this timber and hopefully got a bite. Sometimes that worked throughout the tournament, but only one of my keeper fish came from that pattern just because of the conditions. So my second pattern was, and the main pattern that I ran all day, was flipping a jig. As you see, I flipped a very heavy jig. This is not the same particular jig. I'm pretty sure it's not the same particular jig, but I used a 3/8, 3/8, a half ounce, and a 3/14. I'm pretty sure it's a heavy jig. It's like kind of like a heavy football jig. But I started with a half ounce and or a 3/8, and I was pitching in the outside, black and blue, with a space monkey on the back. As you can see, black and blue, all black and blue. This ended up pulling up in the same cove that you see in these clips, and I hooked into one I pulled this at the 18.75 out of. And then I proceeded to run that pattern throughout the whole lake, doing the same thing, flipping and pitching into cover as I found it, and pulling up a couple dinks, 14, 15 inches. They were either in the front of the pocket, like right at the edge of the mats, or they were deep in the mats. They were in the wood mixed with the duckweed, as you can see in that clip. They weren't really in the thickest, shallowest part, unless there was fresh water coming in. And these coves were particular. These coves weren't. These coves weren't the back of pockets, every pocket. They weren't necessarily in a pocket like the one I'm fishing in this clip. And one of these clips is it's a cutout where a little creek had run out and flooded and ran, and the wind had pushed all this wood into. And I'd find these key places. And there was a couple things that I'm not going to name, just keep secret, kind of keep to my own pattern, that kept the fish from being there. There was things that kept the fish from being there, and there was reasons that the fish were there. Do I think they were spawning? No, not per se yet, but they were getting ready to. They're kind of like, in my opinion, they're getting up there so they can, check out. They can check out the area. They can see if it's worth it, if the water's going to drop. They kind of get the idea of they're not going to pull up and lay their eggs and pull off in a week. like everybody thinks. These fish actually will take weeks to actually lay their eggs. In some places, especially like at Duck River and Highland reservoirs, I've noticed they don't immediately do it as faster as other lowland and man-made lakes. So I continue to run this pattern along with the chatterbait pattern, running it, as you see, along the grass edges coming off the windblown points. I picked up a couple more fish doing this, and actually my last keeper was done by this on a black and blue chatterbait, running it with a 3.5 Shockwave missile baits swim bait in like the bluegill color, like the sungill color. It's a real green color. I then worked this whole pattern throughout the area, and the last fish that I picked up was the 22. The big fish of the tournament was flipping that the heavy jig. It's 3/14, I don't know, so something like that. The one over a half ounce, I know that. It's not a 3/16, I know that. But a little bit heavier than a half ounce jig. Green pumpkin with a chartreuse strand with a black and blue rage crawl on the back, and she swallowed it. I'll put the picture up again right here so you can see. This is my current PB, 22 inches and 7 pounds. When basically that's after that, I had 2 hours left of the tournament. Caught up with my buddy Tanner, kind of pedaled around with him, kind of gave him an idea without giving him too much information of how I caught my big fish. Told him, said I was probably looking at winning big fish at least, and we pedaled back to the ramp together. And I waited around for like 30 minutes in the cold for everybody else to finish their day. And that was the result. I ended up taking it home by flipping mats all day in snowy weather, in 30-degree weather, and blowing wind. 15-20 mile an hour winds. Basically, practically flipping the mats. So all my fish came into a place that you wouldn't figure to flip mats and catch fish in. Thanks for watching, guys, and check out the next one.